All right, it looks like a few people have already joined, so I want to say hey and good morning and thank you for joining me. Let me know if you're having any trouble hearing me, okay? This is I practiced this with the Montgomery Museum of Fine Art, one of the curators there, the other day, but it was my first attempt at doing this live. So let me know if you can't hear me well or just how the visual is, please, as we go. Nice wave there. Thank you. Thanks for making me feel welcome. Good morning, everyone. I let everyone on my Instagram handle know, so I'm hoping to see some familiar faces or handles. Hey, everyone. Hey, Ann. Good morning, everyone. We're going to just give a couple minutes as people sign in. And good morning, Laura, and I'm so glad you could join. I know you're so busy. How are you here? How are you joining live? And in a moment, I'll just do a brief introduction, and then we'll start to take questions. I would love to hear what's on your mind. Hey, Leanne. I'm at the Beverly McNeil Gallery right now, so you can see a very large painting. The largest one I've done to date yet is behind me, and I'll do a span of it as we wait for people to join. Now, many of you who are joining because you follow the Montgomery Museum of Fine Art, you may be familiar with the city and the views in Birmingham, Alabama as well. This is a southward-facing view of Railroad Park. So if you look in beyond the pavilion to the right side, between a red brick building and the pavilion, at the distance you'll see Vulcan, the actual Vulcan. And then on the other side is one of these wonderful Vulcans that was painted by local artists that are placed around the city. And this is a view. Oftentimes, there's Vulcan in the lower right, the smaller statue that's an installation there. I lost my track. I took some of these photos back in 2015, and usually if you look online at Railroad Park, you see a view facing north, and you see this great view of the chimney stacks and more of the industrial side of North Birmingham, where it transitions from north to south side. So this is a view that's less, I think, commonly found, but just a gorgeous view. And you see Children's Hospital back there and some of the UAB buildings. And so anyway, that is why I decided to capture as a landscape painter. I think first and foremost, I'm a landscape painter, and so this I was drawn to even more so than some of the views with the cities in the distance. Can y'all hear me okay? Can someone give a thumbs up if you hear me okay? I know there's a delay, and so Laura warned me about that delay, and there may be a delay too when I answer a question, but just let me know if you can't hear me okay. There's the thumbs up. Thank you. Well, guys, I'll get into a demonstration. Not demonstration. We're not demonstrating today. We only have, 25 more minutes. An intro. So my name's Amy Peterson, and I list my name as Amy R. Peterson. That R is important to me because it's my grandmother's name. I was named after Raquel, my grandmother. I was embarrassed by the name at first because no one else had it, and now that's not the most important reason, but one of the reasons I love that R so much. I'm from Birmingham, and I've lived in Birmingham most of my life. I went to school in Indiana at the University of Notre Dame. Following that, I moved back and started to work for Portrait Brokers America, where I had interned. They're now Portraits Inc. That is when it became Portraits Inc. But even before that, as Portrait Brokers, they represented artists who did portraits, obviously, but from life, from sittings. And so early on, that was really impressed upon me. what you can capture as a painter when you're painting from life, if you're doing, obviously, representational art, and the importance of that. And that was instilled in me early on. And as I transitioned into working full-time, it's never a smooth transition. It's a big risk to take to work full-time as an artist. So I did many things in between. I mean, I was working at a cafe, health food store, as a yoga instructor once I became registered and certified. Basically as a nanny. It was more than babysitting. I mean, these people became family to me. And so these were some of the dog walker. What else? I know I'm missing some. These were some of the jobs I did while I was pursuing art shows. And it wasn't until, oddly enough, until I had 3 children, 2 and then 3, that I started painting full time. And usually that's, I don't know, everyone's path is different, but I had heard from many artists, when the kids move out, you'll have a chance. And I thought, no, I can't wait for that. And I'd started building some momentum before the kids were born, because even before they became a love of my life, art was the love of my life. And I knew that that's what I needed to do. But never a smooth, direct path, as many of you know who are pursuing art, whether you're pursuing it professionally or semi-professionally, or as a true passion, a passionate, I hate to say hobby, because for many people it's more than that. I don't know anyone who says, I do art as a hobby. Like, if you love it, you love it. And I think hobby sometimes has a diminished sort of a connotation that it's just super part-time. But if you love art, I think that it's something, and you're a visual person too, and a creative person, you never really fully turn that switch off, so I guess that's why I don't call it so much a hobby. And I think many artists that I know, that even though it's not what they do to make a living, I think they would agree with that. We can take some questions. I'll stop going on and on. I'll see if a question comes up. I started by saying I was from Birmingham. I have lived in New Mexico. I pursued as a plein air painter. Let's see, what does this mean if it sent a request to be in the live video? Can you just join? I don't know, guys, I'm new at this. So those of you who are writing in, I'm not sure what that means. But I do know that this video is going to be available on the Montgomery Museum of Fine Art website, if anyone misses it or misses a portion. So I moved, after getting married, I moved to New Mexico and just dove into plein air painting there, and got into some galleries in Albuquerque and juried exhibitions in Santa Fe. And then we moved back after just a little over a year of being there. After my son was born, finances, it was tough. My husband's work had been cut, and his hours had been cut, and he was pursuing firefighting, and that's what he does now. And he came back to finish his certification. What medium do I like to use? Oil. I use traditional oils most. Yep. And I always have. I didn't use it until I was 18 in college. Before that, I've been drawing since I was little, could pick up a pencil and a crayon, and drawing from photographs and drawing from life. And then in college, when I was introduced to oil paints, it was pretty much from life. In my studio classes, figure drawing, which was not oil painting, but it was charcoal and pencil, and man, I miss figure drawing. Anyone else miss that? I keep telling my kids, and my husband, when I get a chance to do that, to get into classes again. They're often evening classes. So I can't wait to get into more figure drawing. Can we see some more of your work? I'd love to show you more. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about 2020. My classes, like many of you, I was teaching, and they stopped in March. With all 3 kids at home and no longer in daycare, and my class is not happening, and my son virtual schooling, my painting almost stopped, and it was just like, let's just, what are we doing? We're navigating new waters. I didn't paint again until July, and this, I know the lighting's not great here, but this was a little piece when I did start painting again in July, and that was the longest gap I had gone, is a little piece that I just kept thinking, I had this mantra in my head, patches of color, patches of color. And with the kids at home, I wasn't in the studio, which is in the front room of my house, where I have quiet, sort of, but no view of the kids. So I started painting in the kitchen. I noticed the light from the kitchen counter was nice, and I could keep an eye on them. So I painted almost every day in July these little pieces. Those of you who know, if you take a break in painting, at least for me, it kind of helped to go back into something small and manageable that I could do in one sitting and keep it really fresh. Here's a recent, this recipient of a pet portrait for Christmas was kind enough to bring it. This is Bernie. Let me see if I can get him in some better light. I didn't really set out to do portraiture per se, and I'm not as drawn. I love paintings of people, portraits of people, but it's not something I'm walking around thinking, oh, I need to paint that person. Like I know how some artists feel that. But with animals, I've been an animal lover from the start. I mean, that was probably the first thing I drew was animals, and I don't know how many books there are, stories on newspaper are that I authored and illustrated about the girl who lost her dog, whatever it was. She was on an adventure. There were always dogs involved. I grew up with a German Shepherd, and I just adore animals. Here's another one that I just painted. This is yesterday's painting, so this is very fresh. This is not to say I paint every day, but this is a piece that I did yesterday. I'm not at that point in my family life yet where I'm painting every day. This is my sweet monkey girl, and I totally get it. I get why people want a painting of their pets. That brings me to a note. I think sometimes when people see a painting like that and they'll say it looks like a photograph, and they mean well. And those of you out there who are painterly painters, you know they mean well. But in your head you're thinking, no, it doesn't look like a photograph. I want to impress something that is so important to me. I respect the medium. So when I see a photograph, if it's an excellent photograph that I just think, wow, I'm like, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to paint it. It exists as a photograph. Amen. Every now and then I see some that kind of cross over because there's something about the photograph that I could translate through the medium of paint to make it its own new image in its own right? Still, of course, you give credit for the photograph you're using it as, but it's a reference. I'm not copying the photograph. And that's something that I think a lot of artists out there do understand, and then there's a lot of misconception about painting from photographs as well. So respect the medium. There are even paintings that I think, oh my gosh, I can see that, but as a watercolor. Something about it would be done so beautifully as a watercolor. I'm not gonna go there with oil. So it's, I don't know if that resonates with anyone, but again, it's just respecting the medium. I follow on Instagram some photographers. I follow watercolor artists, acrylic painters, mixed media, 3D artwork, sculpture, oil painters, of course, woodblock prints and lino cut printings, which I just adore. And they're all so different. The medium is so different. And so sometimes I go out and I see a twilight. This was January 1st. This is a plein air piece of dusk in the backyard. It's just very dim and it's very rapid. I mean, to get that, because that sun is sinking low, and I know the light is dark here. See if I can, that's the backyard, and you can't make out too much, especially on viewing it from my cell phone video. But there's a tire swing on the ground now that was used to block up my escape artist dog who would get out that way. And the sun, I look at it every day when I'm out there at that time of day, and it's just, you see an orange tinted street light, and then the green tinted, it's the mercury and sulfur lighting on those outdoor lights. And in my neighborhood, which I love, it's the Cahaba Project. We have all these tin roofs, and so at dusk they're blue, and at sunrise they're blue. And so I'm actually working on a body of work of that neighborhood. Many of the houses are changing. People are moving in, and in some cases tearing down homes. And I love old things. I love antiques. I love the history about something. And when it comes to architecture, I didn't know until recently how much I care about that. So I'm eager to paint these scenes before they change much more dramatically, you know. Those are, Tara, they're fleeting moments. Those sunrise, sunset, dusk, you know, twilight, one of my favorite times to paint, but boy, you better be fast, or just observant, you know, and then maybe paint from memory, which is what I think is sometimes required. Photos aren't going to catch it. Even a great camera is going to do some justice to it, but not the way that your eye sees it. So here's another little piece I did after we had to put down our sweet monkey girl the other day, the dog, the red dog that I showed you. This is a very cheerful scene for me. This is in a historic home in Hoover where I've led workshops, and the owner of the home, the previous owner before the city of Hoover bought it, she was I don't know what you call it. She worked with fabric. She's an artist, okay, hands down, and she will deny it, but she is. And the house is filled with these vibrant colors, and you walk in and you get emboldened to do to your space what speaks to you. I mean, it's just, you walk in and you see her everywhere, but before you see the person behind it, you just see confidence and beauty and color and these worldly influences. It's just stunning. So that's, this is one from home. I've been doing interiors during, before 2020, but all the more so in 2020. All the more so. Let me see, I want to make sure I didn't miss any questions. This is a little scene. Let's see. Again, I know the lighting's not great, but there was sometimes it's just the way color or light, something is catching something about in that little space or that little moment. And there are more vignettes. And interiors have, Anne Blair Brown's work stood out, that green lamp. Anne Blair Brown's work stood out to me. I remember she's not the first to do interiors, but she brings her own voice to it. And I remember thinking, you can do that? You know, you've seen artists work, and those are the ones that I just, like, can I acquire one of their works one day? I'm going to put that on, a payment plan. To have in my home these pieces that just were the artist, the way they see, change the way I see, or change the way I thought about what you could do with paint. And Anne Blair Brown did that for me for interior scenes in particular. I used to think if you work at home, if you have children, if you're a painter at home, and you have the other demands of raising a family and maintaining a home and house and dogs and the yard and whatnot, time is so precious, it's limited. And I find you have to be very selective about what you paint. And as a plein air, my roots are in plein air painting, landscape painting, wide open spaces. And when I saw Anne's work, I thought, okay, wait a minute. I can be in my own surroundings here and see potential for paintings here, potential for composition, for design. It goes back to, it's all that. It's the color, it's line, it's values, it's temperature, it's all there in the interiors. And it gave me a new subject matter to compose with. To see the same way that I would walk out or go in a plein air excursion, or just out in the backyard or whatever. The way that you start to see composition and build things together, you can do it with any subject matter, of course. This is an interior scene of in Birmingham. This is this was the one that the Montgomery Museum of Art posted. That's the interior of the St. Paul's, the Cathedral of St. Paul. They're on 3rd Avenue North in Birmingham. And I'd stepped in there on Ash Wednesday, and it was a really quiet moment. And there was one other person in there, and this was the calm before the storm in 2020. And I look at it, and with hindsight now, that's sort of what I see there. But at the same time, like a lot of the interiors that I paint, sometimes just one object or piece of furniture anchoring and adding interest. Yeah, absolutely. And I do look, I look for that in compositions, no matter what the subject is. What is my anchor? I use that word. I love that word, Tara. Think of an abstract painting. There's an anchor in there, and it could be stand out to you because of the high contrast in color or value, light and dark, but there's an anchor there, and I look for that in interior scenes. We probably all do it subconsciously, but if you can start to ask why, you'll improve that much more as a composer. But on the other hand, I like to say, we don't have to overanalyze it. I'm someone that can overanalyze those things. If it looks good, if it works for you, if you're excited about painting it for some reason, then something's working there. But I think it's good to ask why. And sometimes it's that, like you said, Tara, that anchor that grounds the scene and grounds us in it, and just, that's a great word for it. Hello. Thanks for joining us this morning, guys. I need to keep track of time. I keep rambling on. Interior scenes, though, 2020. I don't know how it was for you guys, but I began by saying back in March when my classes were canceled, I was teaching 2 classes a week downtown, and my youngest were in daycare while I was teaching, and my oldest was already in first grade. And then when that stopped, we were home. I didn't paint for a while. My dad died in May, and so the weeks leading up to that, and I'm sure many of you can experience this if you lost a loved one in 2020. There were these, it was navigating the new waters of when can you see them? Can you come close to them? And we hadn't seen my dad for so long. It was just, I didn't paint for a while. And life happens, and even if you are earning your living as an artist, life's still going to happen to you. There's going to be something in between these moments of when you are. I was filled with inspiration even then at times, and I was looking on Instagram and seeing what these artists were producing, and I'm cheering them on. And at the same time, though, I'm like, there's so much I feel right now, and I want to be able to put this onto canvas in some way. And it's not just interiors or landscapes or city scenes. I don't know what, if we just have to express sometimes. And I had revisited an abstract series even that has been sort of on the back burner for 2, just kind of marinating there on the back pot. And but with the home with the kids and not seeing my parents and not allowing my mom, because of the risk of COVID, was not coming to keep the kids when normally she might have, and I could get some studio time. So everything changed. So some of us out there had more time to sort of incubate ideas and produce, and then some of us were faced with, this is just the day-to-day grind. And that's life. But I started painting again in July. They were small pieces, and I kind of got on a roll. I made sales. I rely on sales of paintings and from teaching income, and running a sale linking it through Instagram and a gallery. If you have a connection with the gallery that you trust and you have a really good working relationship, approach them and ask about that when you need to, and brainstorm. That's one of the many benefits of social media, and of course galleries who have established relationships with the cities and the towns where they are. Running the sales, though, kind of kept some momentum going, and producing small pieces. I also do bridal bouquets, and so even when these moments of just pretty dark, I think I was sinking into some mild depression throughout last year. And I've learned, for me, I have to do. You just got to do. Yeah, you're going to cry. Yes, you're going to worry about stuff, and then you just got to really, strap up, the boots and do. And if you got a project in mind, just keep doing. And that was extremely helpful. And having animals and children around, if you can, I cannot imagine how people that were completely isolated without, hunkering down with pets or with children, even though they drive you mad sometimes. They're still just they keep you tethered, to they keep you grounded. Yeah, the ebb and flow of what 2020 was. My husband's a firefighter. He was working overtime. So we're not talking doctors and nurses, but every day he was seeing COVID patients. That's what many of the calls were. Thankfully he's got the vaccine now, and I'm so thankful that that's rolling out for more people now. I started painting closer to home, not just inside. We had planted a little garden, and I was finding things about outside that were these just not traditional landscapes, but the things that you see every day, you know them already. And if you're a painter, you've probably already painted them in your head and kind of thought about what color you'd mix to make that. And so these things were right at home, and it was a neat time to say, I don't need to go very far. There's a lot of good stuff right here around me. People paint for different reasons, but I kept asking myself, my time to paint is so limited. What is bringing me joy? Where's my joy? And that allows you to be pretty, more selective about what you're going to paint. Sometimes we're painting things that we think we need to be painting. Who says? Who says it? Take some chances. I think 2020 gave us a chance to do that creatively, artistically. When there's a paradigm shift, it's a good time to reprioritize and re-envision things. And so I'm an eternal optimist, and so that's the silver lining for me. That was 2020. There was less painting time, but there was more following my joy through my paint. Yeah. And I started a Zoom series, and I didn't know how much I missed my teaching in my classes until I started the little Zoom series. And so there's one on interiors, because a lot of us are still home. So it's called Glimpses of Home. And I'm not teaching you how to paint, even though you're watching me produce a painting. It's much more broader than that in terms of composing. What are the why behind the painting? What are we seeing? What's working? And I know that's subjective, but there are still some things that are almost universally accepted as this works constantly, or this color. Now, how do I approach it? Or what's my why? Why do I want to paint that? Tell me why, and let's talk about then how to make the painting successful to that end, because that's all that really matters. That's what makes it, if you're conveying what spoke to you about the piece, no matter what the subject matter is. And I feel like I can say that with some confidence, because my subject matter is very varied. Yeah, it's because I love so. I get excited about a whole lot of things, and I'm rambling now. Any other questions? I made some notes. Of course, they're not here in front of me when I need them. Things I didn't want to forget to say, except thank you for having me, Montgomery Museum of Fine Art. I look forward to visiting you again. I'm hoping to go today to the Birmingham Museum of Art while my car's getting fixed on. I'll wait for any other questions, and I'm like, where's my phone? I need to check the time. My phone's right here. Have we reached 10:30 yet? Does anyone have any other last-minute questions? Thank you for listening to me ramble on. I hope there was something. I hope you found a little joy in this. Last word, if you're on Instagram, you're probably following other artists, be supportive. It's easy to be like, they're so good, they don't need another like, or even feel jealousy about what they're producing. Show the love. When you withhold it, it's constricting. And when you just put it out there and say, congratulations, that's awesome, thumbs up, you're going to get that love right back. You're going to feel it. So do that. I'd like to end on that note. Support one another. We need it. Whatever the artwork we're putting out there, show the love. Thank you, Tara. Yeah, it's good to be seen and heard. Just about at 10:30. Thank you for the update, Laura. Yeah, thank you for the painting. I'll scan that one last time. There's Birmingham Railroad Park. If you know any individual or company or whatever that's looking for something to fill that space and bring the outdoors in, call the Beverly McNeil Gallery. This piece is available here. I varnished it after about 6 months of it hanging here. I varnished it last summer. Those are all the pieces the ones I showed during the interview, and you can go to my website. It's amyrpeterson.com. A lot of Birmingham city scenes and local landscapes, still life, and what I call domestic affairs, because there's sort of interiors and still life sort of genre combined. That's something that, as someone working from home with young children, with a studio from home, I'm just going to embrace that, and not fight it. Let's just let your life inspire your art. I used to wonder where my art might take my life. I used to fantasize, and now I'm like, where's my life going to take my art? Who knows? I think that's far more exciting than the other way around. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining. I'm going to see if I can successfully find out how to close this. I'm so new to this. But I think we have reached our time. Thank you again. I hope to connect with you again. And again, you can find on the website, find if something about what I'm doing connects with you and what you're doing. If you want to join one of the Zoom workshops and it's not I'm teaching, I'm sharing, but I'm a student there with you, and I think it's a round table sort of format. So I hope to connect with you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Montgomery Museum of Fine Art. Thank you, Laura. Is it Boken? Boken? Seems French. Thank you, Laura. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.